Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 13. I'm your host, Alejandro, and with me is the man that I wish I could see dressed as Mario.
Paul, hey everybody, how's it going?
I tell you, Paul, like when Sebastian mentioned that and me knowing your size and just picturing, especially, like, hey, Mario movie's out. Reviewers don't like it, but fans absolutely love it. Look at those splits. It's like when I heard it, just thinking about it, being like, man, you're 6'5", like you would like the Mario hat, like that would be like an amazing visual. Do you want to go see that movie, Paul?
I would like to at some point. Especially with how many people are saying it's just like a cute, adorable romp revisiting one of your childhood fantasy stories. It's like easy, no brainer. Of course I want to go back to it at some point. It might not be as high priority as watching the D&D movie or John Wick 4, but it's there.
Yeah, I have to, like, those three are in my backlog. I'm gonna see that tomorrow, actually, Mario, with my brother. Just before we start recording, he said, yeah, let's go watch it tomorrow. I'm like, yes, I don't have to go all alone with all the kiddos.
Got the victory. Oh gosh, I mean, I was reminded very quickly about the nature of theaters when I was in the D&D movie, and I thought, sure you saw it, I messaged everybody where a character said the phrase with the word Among Us in it, and there was like a brief pause of silence, and you hear a 4-year-old go, "You said Among Us." I was just like, oh no.
Oh man,
I can't escape it.
Yeah,
it's returning to the theater has been wonderful, honestly.
And now Gen Z is growing up, so now that's generations are becoming more like has proliferated more into like making themselves known. To me, like the biggest example of that was when Gen Z dressed as Gru from the Minions, and they all started storming the theaters because of the TikTok meme.
Wore really nice suits to go see Minions. It was just hilarious. I'm glad that whatever they're into is not as harmful as all the things that we were into, and definitely not anything that our generation before us was into.
Yeah, our generation was all about that Call of Duty. But also, happy Easter week for people that celebrate Easter week, or just like Good Friday and all that. That's why we're recording early. We're posting on around the same time as we usually do, but we're recording early because I want to have some vacation time. So
would be nice.
Yeah, but thankfully, because of the news gods are blessing us with like some meat to talk about at the very least. But before we dive into that, this is a reminder that this is the X Button Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most other services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. And a big shout out to our clan from over at Chaotic. They've been listening to the show, Paul.
Hey guys, if y'all are listening to this, know that I miss y'all so much. I'm like the Squidward meme right now, where I'm looking from inside my house at Patrick and SpongeBob playing, and I'm just like, I wish I could be there so badly. I tell you, whenever I get internet, Destiny's going to be the first thing I boot up. I'm going to ask somebody, please help me finish
the campaign.
Fighting Callus, and then I want to have Strand so badly. I want to go play Trials whenever that comes back. I missed out on so much stuff.
Yeah, which, by the way, tomorrow might be the end of your suffering, right?
It might be. They finally did the construction needed. It took them most of the week to actually show up, but then they took an entire day where they blocked off our driveway with like a big old trailer generator, and we're like ripping up the gravel road, laying pipes down all the way till after the sunset. And now I have a little R2-D2 green kiosk.
Yes.
Where in theory they should be able to just plug the wire in and then dig a tiny wire up to my house, and that should be it.
Got it.
So hopefully.
At least it's not going to be a month. Yeah, at least it's not going to be a month, thank God. Because I tell you, when you told me that just seemed wrong. Like, I've always known about internet works like only taking at most a week. That's why I was like so distressed knowing that you were going to be like dark and solo for like almost an entire month, like a freaking hermit.
That's just it, though, because the people at the corner actually did take an entire month for them to get their internet. But you could argue that it has been a month since I moved up here. So it has really been a month without internet for me,
Yeah,
no
exactly.
matter what. It's just not a projected extra month.
Yeah, exactly. It was like it doesn't feel like that because in that time you were not at your place. So you were like
Yeah.
hunkered somewhere
I was
else.
bouncing around all over the place for part of it and all of the extra stuff that I had to jump through. But at least now I can play new releases. I just can't be online while I do it.
Yeah, like the weird trick that you figure out to be able to like play the Resident Evil 4 remake was like annoying, just thinking like just the hassle of constantly doing that every hour, but it's
It's,
like it was a
yeah.
solution.
It could have been way worse for me, and I think that's why I was just so happy I figured out some way to make it work. That at least I could go to my neighbor's house and download the game,
Mhm.
which was what was really needed, and then from there just
Ping.
I don't even think I've been able to explain the process because it's a very recent thing that I figured out. So essentially, I can turn on mobile hotspot for a little bit long enough for my system to connect to the internet, but before it tries to download all the updates for
Mhm.
everything. And then in that time, it allows me to use the license to immediately open the game up. It lets me load, and once it goes off that main splash page of the village itself, I can immediately turn off the mobile hotspot, and then I continue playing the game like no problems.
Mhm.
So I just play the game, and then at 15 minutes left, so it gives me roughly an hour.
Mhm.
It warns me at 15 minutes, it warns me at 5 minutes, and then it'll suspend the game and boot me to the main menu. Fortunately, when it
Mhm.
suspends the game, I still have all of my progress. I don't have to run and save whenever I see that pop up. I just turn on mobile hotspot, let it connect, turn it back off just after I start the game, and then I just pick up right where I left off. So it's every once in a while an immersion breaking process to just, oh, yep, gotta hit the button, wait
Mhm.
for like 10 to 30 seconds. All right, now
All
we're
right,
back
turn it
in.
up.
Let's do this.
I mean,
And
that's
yeah,
that's
but I will take that any day of the week over the fact that I wasn't able to play anything but 360 games and anything that I had downloaded on my PS4 external hard drive, which you say, wow, what a first world problem. But also, I just didn't really feel like playing any of the stuff that I'd already played before. A few things on my backlog, but like they were so low priority, I didn't really want to get to them.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's nice getting a new release during this time. One that's so chunky with post post
Post
finish
game. Mhm.
content. Yeah, post game content. There it is.
Or more like
Oh,
replay, more like replayable. So like to not bury the lead, we both beat
true.
Resident Evil 4 remake. You're able to beat
Yes.
Resident Evil 4 remake with like that weird Byzantine sort of like process, but you did
In
it.
19 hours. That was a chunky game for me, and I'm so glad.
21
It
for me.
was, yeah, wow, okay, so I
Mhm.
didn't expect that. Usually you beat me by a good margin.
Mhm.
And I would say that I did. There was only like two requests that I either missed or like forgot about or something, but
Yeah.
everything else I think I
I
did.
missed one of the like blue medallions one in the prison area that like those stupid like reforming beasts are like inside like box
Oh, the
like in the
refrigerators.
refrigerators. Like apparently
Yeah.
there was one there that I missed.
Regenerators,
Yeah.
not refrigerators.
But
Um,
that prison was like a refrigerator. It felt like it was cold. Like they were like
yeah.
they're held in stasis in that thing. But I think Paul, you could agree with me. This is as of April 5th, 2023.
Yeah.
Game of
Important distinction.
Yeah, game of the year 2023. I think it's
Absolutely.
like with a bullet. It's like this is
For the
the
first quarter of
Mhm.
this year, that is the winner.
Yeah,
Undoubtedly. Like I wanted to hold out for like Dead Space remake, which I thoroughly enjoyed,
it's my
and I was
second.
going to continue going back to it. Yeah, it's I think it was either that or Hi-Fi Rush has it, but
Mhm.
I think that might have gone down just slightly based on kind of hindsight. But still, I mean, my goodness, what a great top three for just the first quarter of this year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. For
man,
me, like went Resident Evil, then Dead Space, then Metroid Prime Remaster for me, and then Hi-Fi Rush. And
yeah,
those are like really four. And then Hogwarts is there in the fifth spot right now, tentatively for me because I'm enjoying it, but I haven't finished it. You finished it, but that's kind of where you have it. Also, like you have it like at the
mm,
bottom of all of that, and the ones that can
yeah,
easily slip as more games start popping in, and maybe like obviously better. So
Yeah,
But yeah, like
undoubtedly.
it's so funny. Like this game was an honorable mention for you, and this was my number two, like most anticipated game this year.
Like
And
I almost forgot about it because of everything else that was coming out. I'm actually going to pull up
mhm,
while we're doing this. I want to see what my list
your top
was.
10, yeah.
Yeah, my top 10 had like that's the thing. I had Hogwarts Legacy as my number 7.
Hmm.
Um, everything else I still hold to. Starfield would probably come down a bit, but there's
Hmm.
so many heavy hitters coming out later this year that I think I wouldn't have expected how much I enjoyed Resident Evil 4 Remake because like I mentioned, I've only played
Hmm.
it twice.
Hmm.
One on PS2 and one on the Xbox 360 HD remaster.
Yeah,
So it's like,
to me it was knowing that how much you love Village. That game is basically
yeah,
RE4. That's why I was like shocked that it didn't make the cut for you or even Sebastian because he wasn't a guest star in that episode. Both of you had like an honorable mentions. I was like, oh, I don't think you guys like have an idea like what a big deal this game will be. And
yeah,
turns out,
who would have thought that it's coming?
yeah.
And it makes sense though, especially with the way Capcom has been with not only revamping how good everything else was about it, but adding so many new things to it, the way they remix certain areas, the way they added weapons, the extra stuff you can do after beating the game. It's just, I should have seen it coming, honestly.
Hmm.
And even though I wouldn't have put it in any of that, because in hindsight, with the knowledge of hindsight, of course, I was hyped about many other things like Destiny 2 Lightfall and
Hmm.
like Diablo 4, Final Fantasy VII, Tears of the
That's the
Kingdom. It's
thing. There's
like,
like so
where are
many
you
great,
gonna put some
yeah,
of that?
so many heavy hitters there. So
But then
like
I'm
for
so
you,
glad that I got surprised.
yeah, no, and that's what makes it feel better. It's kind of like me with Elden Ring putting it so low last year and being so shocked afterwards, and you
True.
had it light. So it was like sometimes you don't know like what it's like the impact of things that may be coming. Me like just knowing that Capcom track record, I was like they've been killing it like since 2017 onwards. They haven't had a big miss. So it's like of course like now that they're touching their crown jewel, the one that people consider one of the greatest games ever made. Obviously there was always there was always that fear that okay, they're touching the golden goose. Are they going to change it and it's not going to feel as good? Like it's not going to feel as good because the thing is that we have to remember that every over-the-shoulder third-person action adventure shooter owes its legacy to RE4. This was the game
Yeah.
that popularized it back in 2005. So that's kind of like why that game is like one of the most like influential games ever made. Because now that when we see things like The Last of Us, even many games are not even third-person shooters. Like, what is the full camera perspective now for like many third-person games? Over the
Yeah,
shoulder
I mean,
to the
just look at
left.
God of War and everything else that tried to recover and recreate that.
Mhm.
And it's funny because you don't hear it in most of those talks until you get into like the weeds where you really start digging, and then you're like, yeah, so this came because of Resident Evil 4,
Yeah,
and this
and the
game
thing is,
over here, Resident
yeah,
Evil 4.
yeah, and the thing is, Resident Evil 4 is usually just considered one of the greatest games ever made. It's then when you
Yeah,
got into a conversation, why? Then that's when like you get into ways of okay, it is because this is what it did. And many developers have been like very vocal that that game was very influential to how they design things and move from them. Gears of War, Cliffy V he mentioned is like when I was designing Gears of War, moving away from Unreal Engine and trying to picture a different perspective, and I saw Resident Evil 4, I was like, let's try to go from there. It's like it's so influential that I don't feel this remake is as influential, but I feel like it's a refinement. That's more how I see it. That's more how I see
it's
it.
like a Hall of Fame for a really good sports game or something, where you're like, yeah, okay, it might not be as great as it by itself, but of course it reflects the greatness of the original in all the best ways because
No, it is great
now
by
it's
itself.
like,
It is great by
I
itself.
mean, no, I mean, like what you're saying is like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's great, but of course, like it can't touch the original just because of the influence it had on the
Yeah.
world around
Mhm.
it by itself.
Yeah, the
That's what I
original
mean more like
changed the
that.
world. This one's not changing the world. However, it's
Yeah,
still setting the bar of like, if you're gonna remake a game, this is how you do it. That's probably the beauty of having both Dead Space and Resident Evil 4 like being such high caliber remakes, and that next to like the Final Fantasy VII remake, you can put out all those three and be like, if you're planning on touching something back, like you cannot do the lazy ass port. Like Dead Space and Resident Evil is like the best example of like trying to keep the essence, while Final Fantasy VII remake is the best example of a game that takes a lot of the spirit of the original, but goes an extra step further to like rework a bunch of stuff so that it's not gonna be the same game, like from a story perspective. It's like a completely different thing now. So, and you have all these different flavors, and then obviously you go more at the bottom, like the Last of Us Part 1 remake. That is the exact same game as it was back in 2013, but with the Last of Us Part 2 graphics and feel. This is definitely better, but it was not transformative. So, same as the Shadow of the Colossus remake. It's like that game, they tweaked the controls for them to feel modern, but the same feel is still there, the exact same layout of the world. It just looks like a modern game. So we have like this different tiers, and I love RE4 and Dead Space being like in this high level tier. That it's so good that it's like outclassing everything else that's coming out so far this year. Again, look, I think we mentioned it last week. Like, is that an indictment towards like the new games for the 2023?
Yeah, but
it's too early to tell, I feel.
Yeah. I think there's at least like a handful of the big releases that aren't going to hit as hard as either their originals, prequels, whatever it is, because a lot of these are sequels or remasters of some sort, remakes, excuse me. But at the same time, it's like, I'm glad that this has its moment in the sun to be the winner of like the first quarter of 2023 and just succeed. You did great. Now we get like a month of not a whole lot until Jedi Survivor kicks off like the spring into summer zone of an absolute bloodbath. But yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to share about Resident Evil 4?
For Resident Evil 4, I can't wait to replay it more and more. Right now, it's like, I went back to Hogwarts. It's like, it was one of the last games that I liked that I really want to just finish, just to say that I finished. But it was tough because I was like, should I do that or do another run of Resident Evil 4? Because that's how good it is. And I feel like at the very least now we have like a high expectation of quality of what. Can you imagine like games being better? Imagine the kind of game, like if they're better for this year. That's the kind of bar that I love that this Resident Evil 4 remake has set for the rest of the year. That.
It definitely set the bar high, which is going to ruin a few others like Dead Island 2, but then also reflect really great and sit amongst the greats that I think we have a lot of classics in the making coming out this year, and I don't want to shoot the shot too early, but with so many of them, at least a few have to hit really hard and stay hitting for the next few years.
And why I'm liking this year more than last year is that it doesn't feel like we already blew the load. This all feels like just kind of how I mentioned with Forspoken, that it was an entree. Now that we've gone through all these 3 months, it feels like a really great first meal, like overall, that we've gotten for like the different main courses we're gonna get now with the other different quarters we're getting. So it has a really good chance that we're gonna be hitting and eating good overall, not just early on and then very, very late in the end. Even though last year, like those bookends were really good with Elden Ring and God of War, but what about that middle? It feels like this middle is going to be so much better, but excellent game. I highly recommend it. The people I gave it a 10, I think it was worth it. I even was crazy. Remember some of the crazy stuff that I was saying about this game while we were in chat in comparison to other of my favorite games of all time? Was like, it was getting into a conversation. Then after I beat it, I had to cool off and be like, okay, I beat it. I'm going to let it sit. I'm going to start managing because I was saying crazy stuff like, do I like this better than the Last of Us,
then God of War, Last of Us. You were like, it's in my top 25 of all time now. And I was like, all right, buddy, let's cool off real quick. Like, I know you well enough that I knew that wasn't going to last, but at the same time, I was like, I understand fully why you felt that way, because Resident Evil 4 is a simple meal, well made, and golly, did they knock it out of the park with that.
Yeah, I still feel it makes it. It's just that I have to really think of how high it makes it. That's how much I really liked it. So
that's important.
Enough of that, Paul. Like, it is a good thing we barely played other stuff, so we can like dive into quite a few bit of news. So press X
for some news.
Story number 1, Paul. This is one that we have many constants in this show. We have what is Naughty Dog doing, if Ubisoft, and probably one of my favorite, most frustrating ones. What the hell is PlayStation doing? And could this, especially because of who's reporting it? Grain of salt, because he failed us once, but the other times he didn't fail us. But story number 1 by Andy Robinson from BGC. PlayStation will reportedly hold a showcase ahead of Summer Game Fest. That's according to Giant Bomb journalist Jeff Grubb, who has regularly reported on planned summer events ahead of their announcement in the past. According to Grubb, a PlayStation showcase will be held sometime before the Summer Game Fest event on June 8, the Xbox and Bethesda showcase on June 11, and Ubisoft Forward on June 12. The report follows this week's confirmation that the planned return of a physical E3 event had been canceled due to a lack of support from major publishers. So, here's what's I find funny. Like, do you remember when we got the State of Play last June?
Vaguely, but remind me.
That was the one that revealed Resident Evil 4. It showed us Callisto Protocol. Ended with ended with Final Fantasy XVI. The Final Fantasy XVI big, like showing all the summons and all that, and like the UI looking like a fighting game. And you watch it at 480p, and then when you watch it at high resolution, you're like, oh man, this looks way
so
better.
Much better.
It feels like that could track. Like Sony tried, because to Sony's benefit back last year, them going first with when everyone was like, it's a State of Play, will it even be good? It's like, this have not been really good, so whatever. Everyone had like temper expectations, and then everyone got out of like, oh, I think this was like the best showcase from like this period. It's like that State of Play completely like kneecapped Summer Game Fest, like absolutely like completely kneecapped it, like in excitement. So I can imagine Sony wants that, kind of be like, no, we're gonna go first, like take the oxygen out, so then everyone has to kind of like live up to that. And now we're at the point where PlayStation hasn't given us a showcase since September 9th, 2021. Just to give you just the context, Paul, that day was when you were coming.
Make me happy.
Yeah, and not only that, does that date ring any bells to you? Like in that weird like fog mind?
2021.
September.
Was September. What was happening in September of 2021?
I'll give you a word. Hurricane.
Oh shoot. Yeah, you're right. That was Hurricane Ida.
Yep. That's how long. Can you imagine?
I blocked that out.
Yeah, that was so funny because you went on shelter like for a week and you came back right for us to do our reacts towards that showcase, which was okay at first, that then got really strong at the end. It started with the Knights of the Old Republic remake reveal, that now we know that thing is like withered in the vinyl. We don't even know if it's even gonna come out after they remove the developer, but apparently they still want to get it out, but it's like not a sure thing anymore. The original version of Stellar Blade, the game that makes you wildly uncomfortable, was revealed there before it got the name after.
Not as uncomfortable as whatever the child game that Zach and I hate.
Dokkaebi.
It's called Dokkaebi. Yeah, that's the one that makes me uncomfortable. Stellar Blade is just like,
you were like,
this.
Because
it's like an advertisement for a fake mobile game or something. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, but not fake mobile game, kind of like a Bayonetta. So, but then it was like a bunch of third-party reveals. Guardians of the Galaxy shown again, like Alan Wake that had been leaked. But then like it ended with the triple punch of Wolverine by Insomniac. But guess what? It's not all that. Spider-Man 2 2023, and then showed us finally the gameplay of God of War Ragnarok, which looking back was not the most exciting way to reveal Ragnarok. In fact, that's why it started.
The second trailer was what really got us.
Oh yes, the one that ended in September of 2021 at the State of Play. At the story trailer, which I sometimes go back to it once in a while because it's such a great trailer.
Still feel something.
Yeah, just to feel the excitement again of how it felt going into that game. But that's how long it's been. So Herman Holtz, the PlayStation studios head, who used to be the head of Guerrilla, he has mentioned that apparently that they had been quiet because they wanted to let the phase 1 of PS5 exclusives to finally dry up, because a lot of those games that they reveal when the console are finally out from back in 2020. So it's like we're moving now towards phase 2. So we only know of Spider-Man, and we know Spider-Man is coming this year, maybe the same day as whatchamacallit, a Starfield. That would be funny if that happens, because we know that Tony Todd told us September.
What a fight that would be. That is a true Xbox versus PlayStation right there.
Oh yeah, and I would love
that. As much as I love my space exploration, I would have to put it aside for Spider-Man. There's no question.
Oh yeah, and especially because it will be that space exploration game, I bet will take hundreds of hours to finish, and Spider-Man won't. So
That's true.
so it would be
Good
easier.
motivation.
Yeah, it would be easier to finish that and then stay with the other one. And one's free on Game Pass. The other one has to be bought. So they
That is
both
true.
could theoretically like release there and not hurt each other. Especially since Xbox doesn't care about sales. They care about the subscriptions. So but yeah, it's like now we need to know. Like Sony has been way too damn quiet. That's kind of what I mentioned to you. Is like the worst thing about being a PlayStation gamer this generation is that it's been, especially me that I've been following them for so long, it's been the most I have felt neglected as a consumer from them. Like being left in the vine, like not knowing, like not having like a clear direction, just knowing that stuff is being worked on, but not being told exactly what that stuff should be. And of course, we last year knowing after it was revealed that the stupid ABK deal is the reason we didn't get a showcase, because Sony wanted to like hold back a bunch of announcements to seem weaker, like when they were making their stupid bad faith arguments towards that deal. That's what made that feel more personal, because like, oh, so that stupid deal that I was like just making fun of, now it's like hurting us because it's like we're just being left in the vine. So if this happens, I'm finally happy it's gonna happen finally, because it's just sucked just being like, I've been this uncertain. Say whatever you will about Xbox, especially because they always suffer at actually releasing games. They at least do a good job of telling you, hey, here's some stuff at least for you to look forward to. It's like,
yeah, they're just a lot better at giving you things to be hyped about, and then Sony's just like, frick, here's Spider-Man 2, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, that's great, but then they're just not giving any effort into it.
Exactly. So I really hope, especially right now that we know that the PSVR 2 sales are like catastrophic, which that's on them. They released that thing at the worst possible time. Yeah. So and in this economy of all places, so it's like maybe
I'm hoping that this showcase is definitely where they're gonna actually bring the heat, because they realize, just like you said, they need it now.
Yeah.
They had a little chip in their armor that got exploited with that VR2, and so they're like, oh shoot, we got to build some hype. All right, put the showcase out, build hype, throw some things in. Now I want to ask, what do you think would be at a PlayStation showcase like this?
So I know for sure, like because I know they would want to sequelize a few things. I think Ghost of Tsushima 2 could be there. We know Sucker Punch is working on there. They're doing the Ghost of Tsushima movie over in Netflix, if I remember correctly.
I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, but with the John Wick 4 director, so in good hands. From what I understand with that. Death Stranding 2, we just got a trailer, like the reveal. They theoretically could put it there, but let's just say Jeff Keighley just has that kind of like weird, like hip to hip relationship with Hideo Kojima, and the Summer Game Fest is like so soon after. So I wonder
if Kojima could show up unannounced and be like, hey, can I walk on stage and say some stuff? And he would just be like, go ahead. Like, I'll cut the whole rest of the show for you.
To be fair, like that's literally what he did last Gamescom. He just went there to announce a podcast, not anything else. It was I have a podcast, I'm out. That's the power that Kojima has with Keighley. So, but I mean, it's like one of the greatest friendships in video games. Like public friendships, is like maybe you're gonna get it there. Who knows?
To be fair, if Kojima showed up at anybody's showcase and said, "Hey, I want to say things," they'll be like, "Right this way, sir. Absolutely. Here's the stairs. Can you walk on me at the same time? Sign my kid." Like, he just has that ability.
And also, there's the interesting point that Kojima's also working on an Xbox game, the Cloud game, that they announced at the last showcase. So maybe he's gonna show up on everything, just kind of do like a circuit. He's gonna be at the PlayStation showcase, they're gonna show up over at Keighley's to do something else, and then show up over an Xbox. Who knows? So like he has that many projects, he could see him doing that. Theoretically show on all of them. So as for everything else, because I'm thinking like the studios that haven't gone, because in recent times, like Insomniac, we already know what they're working on. We know
I feel like they could do like one last big story trailer or something for Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think they would muddy the waters with anything Wolverine related. So if they did, it would be Spider-Man. I would think that they could always do. What do you think about that multiplayer Last of Us game?
That's the next one I was gonna say.
Really?
Because we know that has been like we know the existence of it. Like Naughty Dog has basically said it, and Neil Druckmann has over and over mentioned how that mode eventually became its own game, and that's gonna be like the next big Naughty Dog game in a recent interview. So I feel that's the time where they should be like talking, because June will be the 10th year anniversary of The Last of Us. like its original PS3 launch. Like we're getting close to that time. It feels like they need to talk, and if I'm perfectly honest, it feels like that thing has to come out like soonish, because it's like
After
this will be like
that,
5
I think
years.
all they were showing us was like concept art the last time they showed up at a showcase, and I was like, this is not the time for that. Like they should have been showing this gameplay a long time ago now.
Especially because we've seen leaks of the early parts. We've seen leaks of what it looked like when it was like an evolution of the original factions from the original version. I've seen it was like crappy looking footage, but that leaked. So
Speaking of multiplayer games tacked on to single player games, what do you think of the odds are of anything on that Horizon multiplayer
that could be another one, because we know that we got the leaks of that multiplayer game that looked more like cartoonish that was in the Horizon universe that could show up there. And especially because they mentioned that by 2026 they're planning to release like 1,000,001 live service games. We heard from like all these partner studios they got the Haven studio that they purchased like sight unseen from Jade Raymond, the Assassin's Creed producer from like back in the day that worked for Google, and then Google shut up, and then they work on them. They were like working with PlayStation, and then PlayStation was like, "Now we're buying you." And maybe that could be a game they show. The unknowns are like, imagine if they can surprise us. That would be fun, because it would be fun to like be excited about PlayStation again instead of just
true, because I mean, all we've talked about is like the big name things we already know about. So there's always stuff that we don't, and that's one of the best parts of this. Unfortunately, all of those surprises are usually middling to at best. So hopefully we can get really surprised nowadays.
Now I do wonder with the showcase, Paul, is that where a certain piece of hardware that we're gonna talk about gonna be revealed?
It could. Let's hear it.
Let's jump into that. Story number 2, exclusive by Tom Henderson over at Inside Gaming. Sony's next PlayStation handheld. So, following days of speculation, Insider Gaming can report that there's a new PlayStation handheld in development. Codenamed the Q-Lite, the next PlayStation handheld is the next piece of Sony hardware that aims to be yet another piece of hardware that requires the PlayStation 5, the other one being the PSVR 2. Insider Gaming understands that the Q-Lite is not a cloud streaming service, but instead uses remote play with the PlayStation 5, a feature the console giant has been pushing this past couple of weeks. Sporting adaptive streaming up to 1080p and 60 frames per second, the new device will require constant connectivity to the internet. As for the console's physical features, early prototypes showed the console will look a lot like a PlayStation 5 controller, but with a massive 8-inch LCD touchscreen in the center. The device sports adaptive triggers for haptic feedback and will include what you would come to expect from a handheld: volume buttons, speakers, and audio input jack, etc. Insider Gaming understands that the Q-Lite is in its QA phase and it's scheduled to release before the PlayStation 5 Pro and after the detachable disc drive PS5. So...
Well, it's interesting that they are adding more of these speculative tech items into that talk where it's like, the PS5 Pro, the detachable disc drive PS5. I was like, whoa.
I forgot. We haven't talked about this in the show yet. Like, Insider Gaming found out about a potential PS5 Pro for the holiday 2024. And the detachable disc drive PS5.
Be what this is as well, honestly. I would take the PS5 Pro as more likely than the handheld thing, but at the same time, this is more about the handheld. As far as what it is, I know you and Sebastian were kind of discussing the merits and interest in something like this. I want to hear your part, and then I'm going to try to play some devil's advocate.
So like obviously Sebastian was kind of mentioned. Obviously our buddy went to PAX 2 weeks ago. That's crazy that it feels like that long since he went. And they were demoing a bunch of many brands were demoing this streaming handheld devices that connecting to a cloud to play native games being streamed from somewhere else, and some of those are working really well. And he was mentioning that it's cool that PlayStation is doing a version of that because it's answering to a trend that's currently there. So they're hitting they're basically striking while the iron's hot, as that technology is being presented now as a way for you to play your PC games on the go or stream, and without latency, that's a good way to do that. My thing is that when PlayStation does this kind of thing, I have followed PlayStation for so long, especially during the PS3 generation. I remember PS Move. I remember the 3D TV. they announced that it was like, oh yeah, this 3D TV that's 26-inch, that you can like, we'll have like this simul overlay screen that if you put your glasses on, like one person will like see a different image than the other one and play with that. Oh yeah, that didn't sell. Boom. The PS TV, PlayStation.
I do want to mention the glasses thing. I got to see that once in a Best Buy, and it was honestly still to this day one of the coolest things I'd ever seen.
Right.
And I'm so sad that never happened because that is so cool. Where it's like, oh yeah, you can have somebody like watch TV, and then you could be playing your game on the same TV.
As soon as you're wearing the glasses, yeah.
So cool. Yeah, I was wearing the glasses, but it's like at the same time, it's so cool, and I just wish it had sold better. But yeah, continue. I'm still sad about it.
Yeah, the PS TV, which originally was the PS Vita TV, which was gonna be like an accessory for people to play some PlayStation Vita games over their TV. That sold so catastrophically that they just dropped it. So the PlayStation Vita, their second handheld, PSP sold really well as a handheld, but the thing is that handheld sold so much because a lot of people use it for homebrew, and they were not like buying games. So like
jailbreak the crap out of them.
Oh yeah, it was jailbreak so catastrophically that Sony like stopped releasing games themselves, and apparently they were even gonna try to add trophies to the PSP, but they were like no, because it's so easily hackable. And then the PS Vita was like, they tried to like over engineer it so it was not going to be super hackable, but then it was like memory cards are overpriced, there's a lot of nickel and diming to try to get a good experience out of the Vita. That thing didn't sell at all, and they dropped it quickly. Sony has this bad they have a bad habit that they like introducing a lot of hardware, because Sony is a hardware company that they, unlike Microsoft, that they don't care if their console sells as long as you're in services. Sony loves being in hardware. That's been the roots, like as a Japanese company for forever. That's what they're known for. They make their money trying to put many devices in. When it comes to like PlayStation adjacent hardware, like to me, it's like anytime that they try to do something, I know that it's not going to last. I never feel confident that, and when I'm investing in a PlayStation adjacent device, that is gonna last. I never have that because I've seen them kill support for it like so quickly. The Vita only got 1 year of support from that. Then they stopped releasing games. The Vita only thrived being an indie machine until the PS Vita got cracked open finally after like 5 years. Someone finally homebrewed it, and that's when they were like, "We're done. It's out." It's like, this is it. We're stopping here. Do you remember that even for the PS Move, they did like a rifle that you could play some games like the play SOCOM?
I remember it very well.
Yeah, I bet you had a bunch of those while you were on games.
We would pretend to shoot each other when it was really slow at GameStop. We'd have like 20 of them just sitting there lying around. Eventually, they got returned to the warehouse, which means that they got taken out of the store and somebody dumps them in a dumpster or something.
Oh, really? That would happen? They dumped them?
Constantly. And it was illegal to take anything out of the dumpster that they listed as defective.
Wow.
Even if it wasn't technically. It was like if we had too much of it at their secondary location warehouse, they'd be like, nope, it goes in the trash. Very rarely we would like snag something out of it that would be okay, but it was like super not okay, like immediately fireable offense. It was messy, but yeah.
Yeah, but again, like there's like so many cool ideas that it sucks that because they never stick to them long enough. Like with proper support, they just go die in the vine. What I see like with this device that is so dependent on PlayStation 5 compared to other devices, like Sebastian was mentioning one that he's using from Logitech that can connect to play Game Pass games and be able to like homebrew it and all that. Those are the kinds of devices that feel like more worthy investments because you feel you can do more from them. Like from what I understand with this device is like it's not doing anything more than the backbone. If you look at if you go to the article that I opened here, if you see like the thumbnail of the YouTube video, they put there for like PS Remote Play. If you look at the bottom right corner, that is the backbone. And the backbone is like they have PlayStation like they basically got approved by PlayStation to be like, let's put the brand here that you like are sponsoring this device and for like remote play. And from what I understand from people that have used it, that works fine. And the backbone is like $60. I could be wrong. Let me see. PlayStation Backbone price just to kind of be just to know that I'm not like speaking out of my butt. Okay, it's $100. $100 for that backbone. Sony is very notorious, Paul, for being a company that loves, like, unless it's a reason with PlayStation, they love overpricing their hardware. Recently, the PlayStation Edge controller, the Pro controller, $200 versus $150 over an Xbox or the Scuff.
Ridiculous.
Exactly. So that's why I was like, when I know how that company operates, especially them putting a 549 VR unit into the market when the economy said it's like no matter how many want over in Washington or many are like, no, economy is fine. It's like look at the prices when you're going to the market. It's like the economy is not in a good shape with inflation and all that, and the kind of disposable income you would expect from people. I know they would release that. Like if the backbone is 100, they're not gonna price. They're not gonna price it for 100. I bet you they will want to price it even as close to or the same amount as an Edge controller, or maybe even more than a Nintendo Switch Lite, for a device that I know is just limited to just remote play. Knowing that is like the only way that I can only see the elitist people that love everything to be PlayStation branded. There's something cool. I know my headphones are PlayStation, my docking station's PlayStation, everything's PlayStation branded. It's like that's the only way that I see that being worth it. And if this is true, because again, this is a report, Tom Henderson usually gets his reports right. That's something that I can verify. Like many times that we've cited him. So I just don't think that this is a device that's going to be priced right, unless Sony shocks me. Like they can't go over 150. I tell you, they just can't. Especially if it's going to be so limited, when other devices around that price can do so much more.
Yeah, I think they're going to really try to control the market on it. If they really want to, I think they're going to do exactly what you're fearing. They make it too overpriced, but they're going to really focus on just raw market power, pour money into that, make people think that that is the only option. So that's what they buy. When, just like you said, there's so many other options at this point. You have your Steam Deck, you have your Switch, you have your ability to remote play already, but remote play is so like either misused or not used a lot at all.
Yeah, it's
that
like
I think that if they tried, they could.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. The thing is that what I feel like while we're getting the announcements of all these devices from like Logitech, Asus, LG, like there's so many of this like streamable, like portable devices being announced right now. I feel we're at the cusp of 5G towers finally becoming like proliferate, and you being able to like play everything just through a 5G tower that's allegedly super fast. That is so fast that it will be indistinguishable from like being connected to your Wi-Fi. That's kind of like the pitch of a 5G tower. That
I think they had 5G back in New Orleans, but honestly, every time somebody said stuff like that, there's some way for it to get throttled or piggybacked by somebody else that takes up more of the bandwidth so that it doesn't actually utilize itself the right way. I think it's going to be hit or miss, especially geographically, where a lot of places out here, like, you're not going to get that in the Midwest anytime soon.
Oh yeah, not at all.
Yeah, you're really not going to benefit from that, and that's where a lot of people are going to take your portable items, so the constant requirement to have internet, I think, like defeats the purpose for a lot of people, because it's like, well, I'm going portable because I don't have internet constantly. And I think that's why remote play never really picked up either.
Yeah, it picked up very little. It works in specific cases. Like one of the podcasts that I listened to, Sacred Symbols, the main guy there, he played a lot of Slay the Spire in remote play. And because you don't need like a very like finite level of precision, it works so perfectly. Remote play has a place for people that want to like multitask. Obviously, a lot of people already do that with their mobile devices sometimes when they want to like put like maybe a sports game in the background or a movie or a significant order. Others watching like Netflix, let's say, but you want to keep playing. Like in your case, that you play in your monitor while your wife is like watching TV. If there's one thing that at least I know that Sony's at least being a little smart about this, if this is actually real, is that they've sort of learned the lessons of the of the Vita and the PSP that it won't require developers, because the beauty of remote play is that you don't need to like develop a version of that game to work on like a small device. It's like the game as it works on a base console. That's how you're playing it, just streamed towards a device. And they're just trying to have a PlayStation branded device that works like that. I'll say this, the only way that they could convince me that this is worth it is that if there's something in the technology of what they have with whatever this device is that works so well directly with the PlayStation 5 that can impress in a way like the remote play capabilities of like the xCloud over an Xbox or anything else works as of right now. They would have to prove it. The thing is that, again, like Sony, out of all the companies, the one that I don't trust at all with like any kind of like adjacent device that they like put out in the market. And to me, it's like that always just takes resources and time away that I know that they could be using for the things that actually matter, which is PlayStation. So that's kind of like my thing. Like, I'm not excited for this, but I would be even more bummed if it was an actual like device that would require people to make games for it. They already striked out that way, and early on. So
yeah. Well, Sony's gonna Sony.
Yeah. Let's see when they reveal it. Maybe at that big showcase, because Wave 2 is coming, Paul.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, whenever that is. Let's move into some exciting news. This one was exciting for you, Paul. It broke right before this other story. Final Fantasy XVI's DualSense features have been detailed, and the game has gone gold. Story by Tom Ivan over at DGC. In a PlayStation blog interview, Hiroshi Takai said the game utilizes the controller's adaptive triggers and haptic feedback in battle and during exploration. There are certain sections where the player will have to open heavy doors or lift up portcullises, and we use our adaptive triggers to put across the feeling of effort and resistance. They're also used when riding chocobos. The haptic feedback can produce extremely subtle vibrations, which we use to create a heightened feeling of presence in cutscenes. We converted the sound effects used in each scene into haptic data, which let us portray details that we've never been able to before, like the movements of the air. And earlier that day, Square Enix announced that Final Fantasy XVI has gone gold, meaning the main development of the game has been completed ahead of its release on June 22. If I have to like take away with this post, like DualSense features, like over time, I don't care too much about them, if I'm perfectly honest. For years, especially
for something like haptic feedback, it's like immediately turned off.
Yeah. I'll say I left them on for Dead Space, and I will say I did leave them on for Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. There was something cool about like it adds an extra sense of like frantic gameplay, like knowing that you have to really pull the trigger or something like a game. Like
if it's on by default, is it on by default in Resident Evil?
Always, yeah.
Okay, so then I probably have it on for that. Now, sometimes I don't notice it.
The thing is that you would notice it because the trigger would like stop, and you would have to like press it for it to like it wouldn't just go down. So you probably turned them off.
I must have turned it off entirely through the settings of the system.
You did. Around this time last year, Zach gave you because you were having trouble with Cyberpunk. They added like the really strong like feedback for like when you're driving, so you turn them off. So I usually leave them on.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and at least for most of the games that I play, like for example, I'm currently playing Hogwarts Legacy. It actually uses the thing really cool. Like it stops halfway through for like the wand to start like lifting up, and then when you like slowly tap it, that's when you start like doing like the base attacks, and you only have to do like a half press, and it starts doing that instead of having to pull it all the way down. With Resident Evil 4, some of the aiming, depending on the weapon that you're using, as like for example the shotgun, the L2 requires a little bit more strength because it means the shotgun is like a little heavier for you to like shoot. The SMG, the R2 does like the thing that moves up and down like as it's shooting, like if it's like constantly having feedback. So when used well, it can work amusingly so. When the adaptive triggers are used bad, let's say Avengers, it's horrible. When they just like add pressure like just because, not to like add immersion.
I think I remember Cold War also did it really poorly.
Yeah, Cold War was horrible with like the aiming. The Vanguard and Modern Warfare 2 did it a little better, but for like competitive play, you might as well like turn it off because it's like for single players it works. Another game that has gone gold, Paul. finally games that we get a date. We got a date of this back in December. We hit gold. It's like no Cyberpunk. Like remember, Cyberpunk is the only exception of a game that said it was gold and is still delayed.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see Final Fantasy XVI doing this, especially with the way that I've seen big name Final Fantasy titles lately. Still being a little bit salty at what happened to Final Fantasy 15 after 10 years of preparation and waiting, where this one is like, hey, we announced it. Hey, we gave a date. Hey, we've gone gold. It's like, oh, wait, that's a thing. Like when y'all actually focus and try, it's like you can actually finish a game.
We've only waited 3 years for this. Remember, this was revealed in September 16, 2020. So better than 10-year wait.
So much better. And that was like, hey, we're starting this pretty much. It was it's nothing like that. And I'm so glad to see that this is, even if it's not exactly my boy band pseudo modern trek through the weird Final Fantasy world, this is still a pretty cool secondary so far.
This is a Final Fantasy going back to the fantasy of its name with Devil May Cry combat and a darker edge.
Yeah, that combat's got me really ready at seeing every part of that, between the transformations, the weird cool powers you can do, the crazy combos that you can chain on, confirming that you can have different weapons. All that stuff is like, sign me up.
When a preview I heard said, if you want to start getting ready for this combat, go play DMC5. That's all you needed to know about the kind of combat it is.
Yeah. So much. I'm so ready. I think whenever you pair up a really deep combat system with a really good story, I think that's like my butter zone, it seems. Because as much as like, please don't crucify me, DMC fans, but as great as the combat is, the story is just nothing.
That's always been the thing. In fact, hot take, Paul, 2013's DMC has the best story out of the Devil May Cry combat.
It's the most coherent. It's the most start to finish, and it plays probably some of the best that the whole series ever did, and that's not good to admit, honestly.
That game got way. That game got way too much hate. Way too much hate. That game was damn good. That DMC 2013.
A series that really needs Capcom to revisit and remake the first one is absolutely DMC 1. Like, you can give it the Resident Evil 4 treatment and give it so much good stuff, like rewrite parts, take out parts that didn't work, add in new things. You will get a whole new generation of people loving that series for the rest of eternity.
It's so funny looking at, especially that original DMC, is like, you can clearly see where it being a Resident Evil game, or like the old school, like with the static camera and all that, that's kind of where that game was before it became DMC. So
because that would have still stayed with the gameplay model of RE 1, 2, and 3 easily. And with it just like only a couple of changes. I mean, Dante goes through like the crazy castle from Resident Evil 4, essentially fighting equally ridiculous monsters as Leon does in Resident Evil 4. Like, it is purely almost exactly the same. I mean, somebody showed the gif of him walking up to like grab that crank piece, and then the two chainsaw people show up on either side, and he just does a backflip.
That's his Dante.
That is purely like, it makes so much sense, and it's really funny to see the parallels between it all. I wish we could just kind of see a parallel universe where it actually turned into Devil May Cry in some ways. But to bring this full circle, gameplay was always there, story not so much. So now seeing like a real storytelling studio taking their shots at this while also hiring the guy that did DMC5's combat is like, yes, that is what I want.
It's like, if you remember last year's Valkyrie Elysium, the combat of that game I really enjoyed. The story sucked. So and it didn't look good. So this has the potential of like, hey, they hired the DMC guy to the combat. Square Enix, like, maybe their stories can be overly saccharine, and there's my dog. But at the very least, like it's a story that still sticks with your heart regarding no matter how saccharine it can get. And visually, we know it at least will impress. At least I'm glad that they've been so nonchalant about showing us this game recently. Here's 30 minutes, go watch everything. It's like that's a sign of confidence. It's like that. It's like yeah, just look at it. It's like they're really selling this game in a way that
it's not like a curated 3 minutes to be like, hey, watch this one really cool thing and don't watch the next part. Watch this other part that we'll give you. It's like, no, we're just gonna give you all of this time.
Yeah, they only did that with Final Fantasy 15 when it was like 3 months away from being able to come out. Like I remember it was August 2016 when I was like, I finally got to see like uncut. I was like, oh, it's an actually real game. I can't believe it's actually coming out. I've been hearing about this game since I was in 6th grade, and it came out in my senior year of college.
That was pure edgy Paul injected into my veins when it was Versus 13. Oh my goodness,
when it was supposed to be like a Kingdom Hearts game, like when it was Nomura on like
I was rewatching that trailer over and over again. I'd watch people adding their own music into it, with fan theories about what characters were like different characters. I had, oh gosh, it's gonna date me as well. Back when it was first, I think, revealed as Final Fantasy 15, but before everybody got redesigned, I had a giant fabric poster of all the characters. And it's funny because you have like Kor, who's the dude with the samurai sword that just never showed up in the game. You had Prompto with his old hairstyle. All the guys had like red paint on their shoes for some reason. It made no sense, but it was so cool.
Yeah.
And man, what a time.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy 15 rebranding happened at E3 2013 at the Sony conference.
Yeah.
The same conference that Sony was like, no use games, and we're $399. It was that same conference where that reveal happened, which is crazy. Oof. And Kingdom Hearts 3 was revealed that conference also. That was the back-to-back. It was like, Final Fantasy rebranding, Versus 13 no more. It's actually 15, so no more sides. This is like the next big main game. And, oh yeah, here's Kingdom Hearts 3. It was like that scene of Sora like running away from like the flood of like Heartless traversing through Twilight Town. Yeah. So,
gosh, what a time that was.
10 years ago. That was 10 years ago, Paul. 10 years ago. Dang it. Feel old.
I refuse.
Yeah.
I refuse to think about it.
Yeah. Story number
next?
Yeah. Story number 4, Paul. It's like this one is fun. It's like interesting. Nintendo will now fix all drifting Joy-Cons in the UK and EEA, even if they are out of warranty. The story by Chris Collin at BGC. As spotted by Nintendo Life, a new page on the Nintendo support website knows that anyone with a drifting Joy-Con can send it in for a free repair, regardless of how old it is. This is currently Nintendo's policy in other regions such as North America, but this new development means it now extends to the EEA, which is the EU plus Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, the UK, and Switzerland. Until further notice, Nintendo will not charge you in the European Economic Area, UK, and Switzerland for the repair of the responsiveness syndrome, irrespective of whether this is caused by a defect or by wear and tear, the site states. The only exceptions to this are if the issue has been caused by a third-party accessory. If it has been caused by accidental damage or negligence, like let's say a dog eats it, or if someone has already opened up the controller to try to fix the stick. Last year, UK consumer group Which urged Nintendo to open an internal investigation into the persistent issue of Joy-Con drift. Joy-Con drift has affected the Nintendo Switch since its launch in 2017, and despite revisions in the Joy-Con internals, it's a problem that reportedly persists even with newly issued Joy-Con controllers. In June 2022, a former supervisor at a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con repair center in the US claimed the company was inundated with faulty controllers. An ex-employee told Kotaku that at one point, easily thousands of Joy-Cons were coming through each week. They added, we ended up having to set up an entire new workplace just for Joy-Con repair. Customers who sent in faulty Joy-Cons from 2017 and 2018 were reportedly sending replacements, but after the first year, it's claimed the repair center was required to repair every set of controllers. So, Joy-Con drift is something. Have you suffered Joy-Con drift?
Yeah, for almost all of mine, because I would let my youth group use my Switch for like Smash Bros and stuff.
Oh,
and of course, those kids are just break the crap out of those sticks, trying to use their big Smash moves. And even like I was watching them the whole time, and like most of the time they weren't even doing anything too much. It was just that constant use that wore them out extremely fast. So almost all of them were suffering from some kind of drift, usually to the left or to the right. But then it was like I didn't even trust the process of this, because I remember when they opened it up in the US, because it was immediately inundated with everybody else doing it. So
Yeah.
then I was like, I'm not going to send my stuff in for it to just disappear. And then
Mhm.
they're like, "Yeah, we promise we're working on it." And then 3 years pass.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's an unwinnable situation, but I can't believe that Nintendo gets away with selling really crappy controllers. If this happened to any other company,
They would
it
get
would
dragged through the
be
streets.
unacceptable. Yeah,
Yeah.
just because it's like, it's Nintendo. They're like, oh, that's what it's gonna be. The tech isn't so great, but boy, that Legend
And
of
on top
Zelda or that
and on
Pokemon.
top of that, these suckers are like $80. That's the reason why I haven't bought another Joy-Con set since I got my Switch back in 2018.
That's a good
Like,
point. The price of the Joy-Cons is truly ridiculous, even after all this time.
yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm thankful that the aftermarket has finally started releasing like their own Joy-Cons that are not like Nintendo approved. Like there's like
And
40.
usually made better too, because they'll have like actual grips to it,
Mhm.
better size,
A D-pad, an actual
sometimes
D-pad.
better tracking
Yeah.
to slide it in and slide it out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Or a D-pad, an actual D-pad, not the four buttons that are like, even though I feel they work well as D-pad, because I remember when I saw that they were not like a true D-pad, I was like, oh no, I like playing Nintendo games, side scrollers with D-pad. That doesn't seem right. But then I had them in my finger. I was like, oh, they work. Like I would rather
I don't really have
this.
a
I
whole
would
lot of
rather
issue.
an X from the Pro controller. But
True.
hey, at the very least, now worldwide, now they're taking matters into their own hands of like repairing it, even if out of warranty. I think this is good for the UK
Nice.
and the EEA. Now I know what EEA stands for. I didn't know that was like EU plus Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. So I learned
I
something
didn't
there.
actually know that either, so that's
Yeah.
glad to know more.
Oh yeah. Final story, Paul. One that's exciting for me because I've been waiting for it. This is the reason why I haven't replayed this game yet. Uh, God of War Ragnarok's New Game Plus update is available now. The update also includes new equipment, new enchantments, and a level cap increase. Players who download the update will still have to complete the game if they haven't already. Once they do, they'll have access to the New Game Plus mode, which carries over their equipment, weapons, and skills from their previous playthrough. The only exception to this is the Sonic and Hex arrows, which will be relocked again until players reach the point in the main questline when they become available. As well as the new mode, the update includes new equipment, including the Armor of the Black Bear, which is Kratos' cloak from the opening scene, and the Ares and Zeus armors from God of War 2018's New Game Plus mode. By the way, that Zeus armor, it was like my reward after I spent an entire week trying to beat the Valkyrie Queen and give me God of War back in 2020.
I remember.
Yeah, and that armor was like a black one that can one hit kill everything. So,
Gosh.
yeah, so I even the tougher difficulty. Players looking for a challenge will also be able to apply the Spartan armor, which has no perks, no stats, and it's locked at power level 1. That's like, it makes you look like Kratos from Greek. Yeah. Santa Monica Studio has also redesigned 13 of the game's existing armors with new color combinations and styles, which can be bought at the Holder Brothers shop and applied to any existing level 9 plus armor. A new level cap has also been added to the game, with players able to convert old and level 9 equipment into new level 9 plus versions that offer new levels of progression. The update also adds new enchantments, new progression paths, more options in the Niflheim arena, and tweaks to some of the endgame bosses to make those fights feel fresher. I've been waiting, Paul. I was like, it's such a long game compared to the original one that I was like, I had been wanting to like replay it, but it was like, I knew New Game Plus was coming, and I was like, they announced it like last in December it was gonna come in the spring. We're in spring now. It's finally here, and with all the new stuff and being able to play as Kratos with like with the Ned Stark like fur from when you're like at the beginning before Freya takes that out.
Yeah.
I'm
hoping. I want to know how they're going to add the other items, like the Blades of Chaos took the place of where the cape was, because you immediately lose the cape. But it looked like the screenshot had the cape on it. So I'm wondering, like, I guess, well, it'll just sit on top of the cloak or something. But then the spear is easy because that's just the ring, and it only shows up whenever you use it. So that was a great decision on their part to make that happen. But
yeah.
yeah, I remember I was so wishing for that because that was one of the most unique armors in the whole game, and all the rest, I
Mhm.
don't want it to like sound ridiculous, but a lot of the armors to me felt the same. Like they had details about them that were a little different or maybe a different design,
They were more
but
different than you're giving it credit for.
more
You have to go
different
look.
than
You have to go look
like
at them again.
2018 had like 3 or 4 variations.
Ragnarok had
And
more.
no, that's what I mean. Like they did up the game immensely on that.
Mm.
I'm very appreciative of that. But I do wish there was like a little bit more than you have one shoulder, you have
Mm.
two shoulder, you
Or an
have
entire cauldron.
breastplate, and that was it. And so I was like, all right, I get it, but like there's more to armor than like those 3 variations. And like you knew just from looking at it what kind of armor it was supposed to be, and I was like, okay, I get the idea. And which is cool and it makes it simple. But I do kind of wish if you were gonna give me like Kratos has now gone through 2 separate cultures, you could really ramp that up with like some cool Viking armor, some really cool like Spartan armor. But we never ended up getting that. It made me a little sad. But yeah, that's such a tiny nitpick compared to everything else. I'm really just super excited about New Game Plus. If I had easy access to this, I would totally play it until
Jedi
Survivor, bouncing between that and Destiny. So if this all works out on Thursday, I might end up downloading that. Finish off my second or third playthrough of Resident Evil.
Are you gonna give Burning Shores a shot?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
will. I might pick it up later, like after everything's calmed down and all of the fog is cleared. The dead bodies get pulled off the battlefield, and I'll be like, yeah, I might pick up Burning Shores for $5. So it's
20.
like,
yeah, it's 20. So
well, I mean, when it's on sale, that was the implied on there. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe I will pick it up whenever it's like
arrangement.
If that, I mean, well, that's what we have freaking Horizon on anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it'll be $10 Fine. All right. I'll do it. You'll get $10 out of me. That's it.
Man. Yeah, because I was like, I would have to buy it in the shared account just to make sure, just to be like,
right. So it would be have access to that anyway.
And it's so cheap anyway. I was like, oh yeah, that's a cheap like holdover as I wait for Jedi Survivor. It's because Jedi Survivor is it for me this month. It's like that's all I want right now.
There's nothing else that's worth buying well, actually no. There's one thing for me that I do want to get, but we'll talk about it during the releases.
Oh, okay.
Because it's this week actually.
Yep. Then let's jump into that.
Yeah. Excited for New Game Plus, God of War. It might actually get me to play a lot more of the side stuff and actually do those things in the right order this time.
Yeah, especially like because now you will know that when you see that dog, follow the dog all the way to completion. So
which I did go through that area. It was just a shame that I couldn't do it with Atreus. That was what messed it up in the end. Because I was like, okay, this is really cool. I like hearing about this. But it definitely felt different hearing it through Freya and Kratos, which was kind of cool because they had like this mutual bonding going on while they found it out. But at the same time, I feel like it narratively would hit a lot harder listening to
Atreus. It's different because the whole that's the whole thing about that's cool about the creator is like it builds up Freya, like who Freya is and like more
Faye.
background. Faye. Sorry, it's more background for Faye and her encounter with Thor and kind of like Thor making like mention that he had seen that at Kratos access before. So that creator was so good. It's like God of War Ragnarok is such a good game that because I have not gone back to it for so long after I platinumed it, that's kind of like why I told you like I had been going back more to Elden Ring than this one. That's why I was like, my mind was like, maybe no, Elden Ring was like that's the game that I keep going back to. So that's probably the best game of 2022. Maybe this replay will again shift it again. Who knows? But I've been like afraid to go back. Yeah, you know what? You know why? It's like there's something that's like I was like I felt that first playthrough was so great. The spoiler cast we recorded available now there in November. Such one of my favorite episodes we recorded. That
was a time.
that is just it's like you're so afraid of like maybe it's like I'm afraid of going back and it's not as good as I remember it being, especially with the original, like me. again, like what I was telling you is like, am I like overrating the first one just because of how important it is? And I barely like replay it. So that's kind of like I was having like all this weird thoughts in my head. But now it's like my Hogwarts Legacy playthrough is like in peril because that's what I was playing. I was like, but there's like the New Game Plus for God of War. It's like,
that is a good point. Yeah.
But
Ooh.
no, because you beat Hogwarts, I'm going to beat Hogwarts because especially since I like it, more than.
You can't just let me beat a game that you can't finish. Yeah.
Especially because we pretty much beaten like you. The only game that we played that you haven't beaten so far has been Forspoken.
And Atomic Heart.
And that I didn't beat Atomic Heart, and we agreed that's like, yeah, it's like we're letting that one go for now.
True.
Or at least until
I think
PS5.
I finished everything else.
Yeah, and Metroid, I doubt you're gonna finish right now because you don't play the Switch much, and you might need a guide. Just FYI, but it's like most of the games we bought, we've actually like compared to other times, like we've actually like been diligent about finishing them. True. They haven't been that long either. This developers is what we want. Not too short. We don't want Resident Evil 3-4 hour $60 games. Not like they used to be back then. But these like 15, 20, 25 hour games. Yes. Give us more of that because it feels
perfect blend.
Exactly. So read us the few releases, Paul, for this coming April 9 to April 15. Not too many.
Not at all. So we have Sherlock Holmes, The Awakened remake. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on April 11th. Tron Identity from Bithell
Mike
Games.
Bithell, yeah, from Mike Bithell.
On Switch and PC for April 11th. Ghostwire Tokyo getting its Xbox Series X and S release on April 12th. And lastly, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection on PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC April 14th. This is the game that I mentioned that was my other big release. I would like to see the play through all of them, but I want to at least try one of them, you know.
That could be an arrangement thing. We could see, like, let's see what the price is and we can like go from there. I would like to try them also. I've heard many good things about Mega Man Battle Network as an RPG Mega Man series that a lot of people really stand for. So
I watched somebody kind of explain the combat once. There was like one of those video essays explaining that it looks like it's a turn-based or RPG process, and it's more like a fighting game that you have to prepare for.
Yeah, you prepare for the fighting game and just goes like different
phases. Such a back and forth, up and down, things getting knocked out, using different items, and it's like freaking breakneck that it somehow blends the concept of like a card system, fighting games, and RPGs into this crazy mishmash. And I was super into the TV show as a kid, and somehow
there was one, right?
And it's now free on YouTube because of this game collection coming out. So I'm actually, at some point, I really want to go back and watch it, no matter how bad it probably is. It was so cool as a kid of like, oh yeah, Mega Man's like in the computer, but then like the virus is real, and then he has to like suit up like he's Mega Man. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Mega Man X was like my guy. I love Mega Man X so much. And I enjoyed Mega Man Zero, but holy crap, those games are hard. But when you told me that game was on sale, remember last year that I immediately like threw my sheet off. I was like laying in bed. I want to buy it at my TV. Yeah, I definitely want to try this. That's the thing, like with this month. Like right now, we're like in the calm. This is the transitional month. Like we're just waiting for Star Wars now. A bunch of these things are gonna be like just the time saver, like the time wasters for us. So Horizon is definitely the week after this. So that could be like a good 4 or 5 days to test one of these games, especially if it's not that expensive. Let me see.
I think it might be full price, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think so, but let me go to the PlayStation.
I'm seeing retail copies of it. At least for the Switch, it's $60.
Oh yeah, no, the Switch is like, you're out of luck there.
But it's also 8 games that you're getting with it.
Yeah, let me see Battle Network. I'm looking at the PlayStation Store right now. Yeah, it is. Dang, it's
sure enough.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, it's yeah. We'll definitely think about it. It's gonna be like $30 each.
Yeah, it's a pricey one. It's like great if you're planning on playing all the games, but also it's like that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of them, but it's like that's definitely like a bang for your like that's definitely bang for your buck.
Yeah, especially as long as it's something that you enjoy playing. And I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy playing it yet. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So it's like,
tentative. Let's wait. Let's
we'll
wait and
see.
see like the thing. But this could be like just as the Mega Man, the other one got its sale, like the Mega Man Zero one. We could wait for that.
Oh yeah. I think I already have this. No, I have the X collection. That's what I have.
Yeah, I think you have X1. Yeah, you have the X, because there's two of them.
So. Right, there's the two X collections, and then there's the Zeros, I think, on top of that. But yeah, Mega Man is a long and convoluted storyline of weird robot and computer-related shenanigans.
Yeah, of very different games, especially the original one, then going to X, and then the Zero, and then there were the Legends games, and then the Battle Network games. Yeah,
and then when like X8 or 9 happened, and they just shifted to be freaking 3D Castlevania all of a sudden, it was weird. It was a weird time.
Yeah, Mega Man X Legacy something, or no, Command Mission. I think it was like an RPG. So, oh yeah, but Mega Man's cool. Like again, the whatchamacallit, Capcom's killing it. It's like it's so nice seeing like one of the Japanese companies that's not Sony like thriving like they are currently, and them putting so much love, and care, and getting a lot of their games modernly for them for preservation. It's like
in completely different genres as well, because I mean I'm watching all the Street Fighter fans are eating super good right now
with those collections, and on top of that,
with the collections
6 coming soon,
and like a lot of fan favorites, a lot of work being put in, because I follow one of the guys that's like a super deep diver on every of one of the trailers, and it's like I have no idea what he's talking about, but he's so entertaining that I like listening.
Is it Maximilian, dude?
And, yeah. I listen to all of his reacts to stuff where he's like, oh yeah, back in like 20 years ago with this thing, and that's why this pixel frame is super important. I was like, whoa, dude, tell me more. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The way he like he can like enthrall you with like his love for retro is like it's unmatched by anyone in the gaming like discourse. I really love like everything that he does. So
like unabashed positivity is what I need more of, and he definitely encompasses it.
Yeah, but Paul, I can't wait for tomorrow to be the day that you finally get internet again. For us to
it's not going to be until like tonight or that night anyway, so I have to wait for a whole day, but just make it work.
Yeah, just the idea that by the time we're recording next week, that you will have your internet back. We might be able to get you through the raid like at any point, because with the two
y'all will have had some experience with all that. I don't even have Winter Bite yet. I don't have anything.
Do you oh crap. And do you know what the worst part about doing Winter Bite is? That you'd have to do it over 3 days, because you have to wait for a rotation. So to do like an event, so it's not something that you can just get it.
Interesting. Well, once I back having internet, I'm going to be more active in the chat. We can all explain those details anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, guys, you're free from my presence for a little longer, but boy, once I get that in, I'm going to need some help.
When I let them know when I let them know yesterday that you might have internet again, I was like, Spartan was so excited. Hey Spartan, I know you listen. Hi.
I love y'all. Y'all are great.
And also Dutch is ready to have you back. It's cool. And Aussie, if you're listening to this, love that you're listening to us. So, and everyone else that listens to us. Paul, where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I alas have not posted a lot, but I've saved a few funny clips, a couple of screenshots, hoping to post all that once I have internet. But until then, I just kind of post memes or retweet stuff here and there. Alejandro, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at _Dorsegovia. They can find me on Instagram at AlejandroSegovia93, and my current written content over at seasongaming.com. Critical Corner pending. So, and Guns, you too. Shout out to you. So, Paul, I promise you we're going to get you up before 7:30. So, mission accomplished. So
mission accomplished. I don't know how, but we did it.
Oh yeah, it's easy to like be able to like schedule this instead of just being ASMR. Like we were talking with Dutch, is that whenever he's in, this could go up for 2 hours sometimes, because I'm still trying to get him into the show. So that would be a fun time if we can.
I really want
get them in
so badly. It's a shame that we couldn't do it before I moved out of the state that they live in, but I can't wait to hear their wonderful voice and talk more about stuff. But of course, I'm going to get that whenever we do the raid. So that'll
Oh
be
yes,
exciting.
absolutely. So Paul, you have
Victory.
a wonderful rest of your evening. Everyone else, thank you for listening or watching. See you all next week. Enjoy the rest of this week, especially if you're in Easter, celebrating Easter vacation. Enjoy your vacation over there outside in the world. Be safe, stay healthy, and remember,
Press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.